He once held up a trophy and made his entire country cry with joy. Strangers hugged each other in the streets because of him. Kids grew up with his face on their bedroom walls. Now police in his own country want to put him in handcuffs. Not for anything small. They say he cost his nation $5 million. This is story of greatest cricketer Arjuna Ranatunga. The same man who gave Sri Lanka its greatest day in history is now facing the possibility of walking into a courtroom instead of a stadium. Let's start with from where his Baining start. Arjuna Ranatunga was born on December 1, 1963, in a small town called Gampaha, just outside Colombo, Sri Lanka. He grew up in a big family, and in that house, cricket wasn't just something you watched on weekends. It was the family business. He had 5 brothers, and every single one of them played the game seriously. Then, at just 18 years old, he got a moment most grown men would panic over. Sri Lanka was about to play its very first test match ever. The whole country was watching, an entire nation pinning its pride on 11 players, one of them a teenager who'd barely finished school. Most kids that age would have frozen. Ranatunga didn't. He walked out, scored a 50, and became the first Sri Lankan in history to hit that mark in a test match. On day 1, before he'd even really started, his name was already stitched into his country's history books, and that was just the opening chapter. What came after was one of the longest careers cricket has ever seen, and he did it while making enemies almost everywhere he went. In 1988, he became captain. Back then, nobody feared Sri Lanka. Other teams walked onto the field expecting an easy win. Ranatunga hated that. He was loud, stubborn, and he picked fights with umpires, other captains, even his own cricket board, whenever he felt his players were getting disrespected. Some people couldn't stand him for it, but every single person in that sport knew his name, and by the time he was done, he'd played 93 test matches and 269 one-day internationals, scoring more than 10,000 runs. To this day, he's the only cricketer on earth who played in his country's first ever test match and its 100th. Nobody else can say that. Then came 1996, the single biggest day in Sri Lankan sports history. Before the World Cup even started, 2 of the biggest teams in the world, Australia and the West Indies, refused to even travel to Sri Lanka. They were scared, citing safety concerns, and forfeited their matches instead. Most captains would have quietly taken the free wins and moved on. Ranatunga used it as fuel. His batsmen came out swinging from the very first ball of every single game, something almost nobody had dared try at that level before. And it worked. Sri Lanka, the team nobody respected, beat Australia in the final and became world champions. Here's the part that makes this hit even harder. Sri Lanka was going through real hardship back home at the time. Genuine unrest, genuine pain. And in the middle of all that, watching their team lift that trophy gave people something they hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Ranatunga wasn't just a cricket captain anymore. He became a symbol for an entire nation trying to hold itself together. You'd think a story like that ends with the hero riding off into the sunset. His didn't. Ranatunga retired from international cricket in 2000. But instead of fading away like most retired athletes do, he jumped straight into 2 brand new arenas, government and cricket administration. And he stayed in both for the next 25 years. He became a member of parliament. He served as Minister of Ports and Shipping. Then, from 2018 to 2019, he took over as Minister of Petroleum Resources Development, in charge of the country's entire oil and fuel supply. At the same time, he kept climbing inside Sri Lanka cricket, becoming its president more than once, and as recently as 2023. Officials brought him back to lead an emergency committee meant to fix serious problems inside the sport. On paper, it looked perfect. Legendary captain becomes respected government leader. But underneath all of that, something was quietly building, and it had everything to do with money nobody could actually account for. During his playing days, Ranatunga's income mostly came from match fees and endorsements. Solid money for a top cricketer in the 80s and 90s, but nothing close to what today's cricket stars make. After he retired, his income likely came from government ministerial salaries, his roles running Sri Lanka cricket, and some media work on the side. A bunch of celebrity bio sites also claim he owns real estate and businesses. Here's the problem. Not one of those sites names an actual property. Not one names an actual company. It's the exact same vague sentence, copied and pasted across dozens of different pages. That's why his so-called net worth changes, depending on which website you check. Some say $1 million. Others say $5 to $8 million. Some claim $15 million. None of these numbers come from a court filing, a financial disclosure, or the man himself. Their guesses dressed up to look like facts. The honest truth is simple. Nobody outside his own accountant actually knows what Arjuna Ranatunga is worth. And in December 2025, that uncertainty turned into something a lot more serious. Sri Lankan anti-corruption investigators walked into a courtroom in Colombo and said they planned to arrest him. The charges go back to his time running the petroleum ministry. Investigators say Ranatunga and his older brother Dhammika, who ran the state-owned oil company at the time, quietly changed how the country bought its oil. Instead of long-term supply deals, they allegedly pushed for more expensive short-term purchases. According to investigators, that one decision cost the Sri Lankan government about 800 million rupees, just over $5 million US, spread across 27 separate purchases made in 2017. Ranatunga was reportedly out of the country when the news broke. Officials said he'd be arrested the moment he stepped back onto Sri Lankan soil. His brother Dhammika was arrested and later released on bail, with a travel ban attached, since he holds citizenship in both Sri Lanka and the United States. And here's the part that makes this feel less like bad luck and more like a pattern. This isn't the first Ranatunga brother caught up in legal trouble. Another brother, Prasanna, once Sri Lanka's tourism minister, had already been arrested in a separate insurance fraud case and was already convicted back in 2022 for extorting money from a businessman. One brother convicted, one brother out on bail, and now the most famous brother of all, facing an arrest warrant with his name on it. So what do we actually know for sure? Not as much as the internet wants you to believe. When a public figure is accused of costing his own country millions of dollars, repeating claims about his mansions and his fortune without any real proof isn't just careless, it's dishonest. There's no verified public list anywhere of properties, cars, or businesses that officially belong to him. What actually exists is a pile of second-hand guesses from entertainment websites that seem to assume he must be rich simply because he's famous, not because anyone bothered to check. What we can say for sure is that he spent close to 2 decades earning government salaries across multiple ministerial roles, plus years of income from leading Sri Lanka cricket, plus whatever money remained from his playing days. So yes, it's reasonable to assume he built up real wealth over his lifetime. But reasonable to assume and confirmed are two very different things. And with an active corruption case attached to his name, that gap matters more than it ever has. Ranatunga still lives in Sri Lanka, mostly around Colombo, the same city where he built his entire life. Every so often he still shows up at cricket events, honored for what he did as a player. But these days, his reality is shaped a lot more by lawyers and court dates than cricket meetings. His son, Dion, built a completely separate life in the United States, playing cricket there instead of following his father into Sri Lankan politics. The family has stayed quiet and private, a sharp contrast to how loud and outspoken Arjuna has always been. It's a strange, uncomfortable place for a man whose face once covered murals and posters across an entire nation. Nobody can take away what he did on a cricket field. He took a team nobody respected and turned them into world champions. He fought for his players when almost no one else would. He gave his country one of its proudest days ever, and that part isn't up for debate. But his financial story right now is a lot messier than any flashy headline claiming a $15 million fortune. The truth is, we don't have real numbers, and the only part of his financial story that is fully documented right now has nothing to do with mansions or luxury cars. It's a corruption case involving millions of dollars his own country says it lost. Picture that same trophy he lifted back in 1996, the one that had strangers hugging each other in the streets. Now picture him walking into a courtroom instead of a stadium, and you'll understand exactly how far this fall really is. Somewhere between national hero and cautionary tale, the final chapter of Arjuna Ranatunga's story is still being written inside a courtroom in Colombo. What do you think really happened here? Drop your take in the comments and follow for more true stories the headlines never fully explain.